Hey y'all, today we will be going over the books that I read in May. So I just got home from school. May was a slow reading month and like normal. I started studying for finals and then I had an AP exam and it's like a lot going on with senior graduation. I was attending that and also like some of my friends were graduating, so like I was spending time with them and a lot was going on in the month of May. So I read 7 books. Like 3 or 4 of them were on my TBR, but like my general TBR, including series, I had yet to finish, or still have yet to finish. So the first book that I read was I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm not entirely sure. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I did enjoy the book, but I don't have the physical copy of it, sorry. Actually, let me get the physical copies of the one I own. So I am back, and yeah, as I mentioned, I do not have a physical copy of I Must Betray You because I borrowed it from my teacher because one of her classes was reading one of her other books, Salt to the Sea, and she basically let anyone who wanted to borrow any of her books to borrow them. So I decided to read I Must Betray You, and I did enjoy it. It was fast-paced and interesting, but like I didn't love it because of as I've mentioned, I didn't feel connected to the characters at all. As for content, there was a couple S words at the end, and like of course there is violence because it's a historical fiction about this boy who he's a writer, but he is like forced to join the spies of like the communism, and like he's very anti-communist, but he has to join basically because he wants to get medicine for his grandfather who is dying. And that was really good, like that aspect. It's a really good book. And so one of the things that I did like is at one point they mentioned the pastors and specifically Richard Wurmbrand, who was a Romanian pastor who basically went against the Communist Party. And then the next book I do own, and this was it was a reread, was Caraval. So this one I gave 5 out of 5 stars, which like I love this book. So this is one of my favorite all-time books, and I believe it always will be. So some of the things that I really enjoyed about it is the Narnia-esque whimsicality. I wouldn't say it's like Narnia, but in the fact that they are both whimsical, whimsicality of this feels like Narnia. And then I also loved the brotherly and sisterly relationships in this book. One of them, I loved Scarlett and her relationship with her sister Tella. I also loved the themes of loving someone despite their flaws, and which is seen constantly throughout because it's obvious Scarlett loves Tella, but Tella has a lot of flaws. And then also light versus dark. So Caraval, it's a kind of like a fair or a circus that takes place during the night. Really sorry about that notification. Muting. And like the idea of that is like how we can hide things that we do in the dark, but then they will stick by in the day. And then there's of course the themes of forgiveness, though I really shouldn't say much about that because that's more towards the end. I also love the author Stephanie Garber's writing style. It's very part of what makes it feel whimsical. So for content, the betard word is used once or twice, but that's it for language. There is some violence. We see some people drunk. There is a fortune teller, but like the way he tells fortunes is kind of weird, honestly. Like he is almost completely naked except for his groin area. And so like instead of using tarot cards or like glass balls, he has a bunch of tattoos. And apparently wherever his clients look at the longest or whatever, the tattoos specifically, like that is what they want the most, and that's what they will strive for, and like that's what will be in their future, I guess. Like even if it's subconscious, which I find very interesting. There's no sex But there are some comments, and then the male main character Julian undresses the female main character Scarlet, but it's not in that way. She is literally about to drown, and her skirts were weighing her down. So that's it. Despite the content stuff, I really love it. It's perfect for fans of The Greatest Showman, which is one of my favorite books. I have a Caraval playlist, which I will link down below. I have the entire Greatest Showman soundtrack on there, and then a couple others. I would rate this 14+, and then the previous one, I Must Betray You, 13+. Anyway, that was Caraval. And then the next book I read, I do not own. I listened to the audiobook. It was A Time to Die by Nadine Brands. I should have it somewhere here, hopefully. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, because it was really good, and I really liked it, though I did find some problems with it. I took away 1.5 stars because I didn't really like the main character at first. She was very selfish and kind of arrogant, but sometimes I don't mind that, but with her it was very annoying. She does grow as a character, and so we do see that change drastically. There were some things that I did really like about this. I really liked the ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's really good. So, and then there's also the character growth, because as I previously mentioned, the main character, she has a lot of character development, and I really like how Nadine Brands writes her characters and how realistic they are. It was very well done for a debut novel. And then the intensity, it was very intense, okay? I was on the edge of my seat, especially towards the end. And then I also enjoyed a lot of the themes, such as, I'm sure most of you have heard the word shalom. It's the Hebrew word for peace, but it doesn't just mean peace. It means, perfect and completion and the way that things are meant to be. So essentially, the way things will be whenever Jesus comes. So I really liked that aspect. And then there's also the theme of trusting in God during hard times and whenever he seems absent, because I have dealt with that. I've had to have learned to trust him through a lot of the stuff that I've gone through. And then also what to do with the time that we have left. So basically it's about this girl who lives in a dystopian world where they all have these clocks that determine the time that they have left on Earth, but they are given at conception, and they're given, the mom is given 2, except the main character, she is a triplet, and, her oldest brother died at birth, but, one of the clocks was his clock, and so they didn't really know whose clock it is, whether it's her brother Reed or hers. She believes it's hers. I'm currently listening to the second book, A Time to Speak. I'm about halfway through, and that one is also very intense. I'm not going to share what's happening, obviously. I would rate it 13+ because it does get pretty violent at times. The next book that I finished was House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is the 4th book in the Heroes of Olympus trilogy. No, there's 5 books in the Heroes of Olympus series. It's the second Percy Jackson series, which I gave 5 stars. It was really good. I loved, the romance, and, okay, not all of the romance. There's one ship that I'm not sure about. That is Leo and Calypso, but I love Leo. He's my favorite character. Calypso, no, I don't really like her that much. And then we get a lot of Percy and Annabeth. I'm not gonna say what happens because that's gonna spoil the previous book, obviously, but yes, this is a really good book. For content stuff, there's battles and magic, and then there is a queer character, which I don't mind. I knew the entire time, mainly because of spoilers and because him and this other guy, a lot of people love them. I haven't seen much of the other guy. I've only seen him in one book. He's one of my favorite characters, actually, Nico D'Angelo. And I just spoiled it, so sorry for y'all. And then the next book that so these 2 I read on June 1st, but I was going to finish them on May 31st, so I am including them. I was just really busy on that day. So the next book that I finished was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This was my second Stephanie Garber book this month, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. So basically, in it, we follow this girl, Evangeline, and the guy she loves is engaged to her stepsister. And so she goes to visit this guy, the Prince of Hearts, aka Jax. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. I absolutely love him. He's top tier book boyfriend material, to basically stop the wedding. But Jax is a fate. Fates don't really have, like, they aren't good people at all. And in exchange for his help, she has to kiss 3 people of his choosing at the time of his choosing. And then she is like, later on she goes to like the Magnificent North and a lot happens. And this is enemies to lovers. They haven't become lovers yet. I'm still waiting for that to happen. So yeah, that was Once Upon a Broken Heart. 4.5 stars. Yeah, as I've mentioned about Caraval, I loved the writing, the characters. Well, I mean, Evangeline was not the greatest. Neither was Apollo. But yeah, the writing, the world, everything about it except those 2 things. The content, there's magic, but that's it. Then the next book I finished was a romance novel, Young Adult, The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. It was good. I gave it 3 stars because I found it kind of cheesy and then hard to get into. And I didn't really like the characters that much in the beginning. They did grow on me, especially, yeah, it was a good book. Basically, it's friends to lovers celebrity romance, and I have really nothing else positive to say about it. So for content stuff, there was 2 cusses, which really surprised me. I expected a lot more, honestly. This one I did not expect, and that was remarks on body parts. Like, it wasn't like, it is stuff that I do feel uncomfortable saying, but like, not inner stuff, if you know. And then we also see the female main character drunk, and that like kind of sparks the most of the plot. And then one of the other aspects that I really liked was the female main character. She is a ballet teacher, and I really love how she checks up on her students, makes sure that they're doing okay, like mentally, physically, all of that. And then also the male main character, Nathan, he is in the NFL. He is playing for this team called the Sharks. Obviously fake team, but I loved his relationship with his teammates, and I loved like their dialogue. And that was the last book I read during May. So overall, it was an okay reading month. I didn't get as much done as I wanted because, and then half of these I was already in the middle of at the beginning of the month. So yeah, and then also I'm including this because, well, we technically haven't finished it yet, but it's the 4th, and it should be the 4th when I'm posting. We're reading Just Mercy for class, for English class, which so far I have only like 10 pages left. I'm giving 3 stars because it's really boring. I don't really like the writing that much, but there is a lot to think about. Basically, it's nonfiction about this guy, Bryan Stevenson, who, it's his, like, autobiography, sort of. He fights for inequality in the justice system, and a lot of it is about how we are all humans, and we are all broken people, and we deserve to be treated as humans, even though we've done stuff that's really wrong. It's good so far. There's like lots of mentions of a lot of stuff because he goes into detail about a lot of his cases and other stuff. But yeah, I'm giving that 3 stars. Don't love it, don't hate it, it's okay. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye.